Hey YouTube, in this video I want to take a look at President Trump's stocks portfolio. And now, you may love him, you may hate him, but he is an interesting person. And apparently Donald Trump had about $40 million in stocks before he took office. So he had to sell all his stocks when he took office. Let's take a look at his performance and if there are any lessons we can learn from his stock portfolio. Let's do that. So Donald Trump had about 19 million invested in equities and commodities. In May 2016, as part of Trump's requirement as a candidate for president, he disclosed his financial holdings in a Financial Election Committee filing. We don't know the specifics, exactly how much he invested in each stock, but he was required to give a range. So, as of May 2016, here were the 14 largest stock holdings for Trump. And first up, we have Apple. And you can see what is the possible range he bought for Apple. Another stock he bought is Microsoft. And this is the range. Pepsi was his next stock. JP Morgan Chase, McKesson, Nike, Johnson & Johnson, General Electric, Visa, Gilead Sciences, Celgene, Phillips 66, Caterpillar, and Alphabet. These are his stocks. So, as mentioned, Donald Trump sold off all his stocks in December 2016. But for the purpose of this video, let's assume he had held all those stocks till date in the respective positions and sizes that he declared. Now, with another assumption we're going to make that Donald Trump picked these stocks, but it could well be that he had a stock manager who picked these stocks, which is probably the more likely scenario. But knowing how opinionated Donald Trump is, I'm sure he had at least some say in what stocks were in his portfolio. And the other assumption we're going to make is that he bought these stocks and he held them till date. And that's a big assumption. Not many investors have the patience to buy and hold. But let's see how he would have done if he had simply bought and then he just held these stocks. So here's how Trump's top 14 stocks holdings have performed since May 31st, 2016 through September 10, 2019, inclusive of dividends paid. Apple was a major home run for him. So was Microsoft. So his top two stocks did very well. And Pepsi did decently as well. JP Morgan did quite well. McKesson was down. Nike did quite well, up 63%. Johnson & Johnson did about 25%. General Electric was a big disappointment for him, down almost 65%. Visa was quite well as well for him. It did about 128%. Gilead Sciences was a disappointment. It was down 15%. Celgene down 7%. Phillips 66 up 42% plus. Caterpillar up 96% plus. And Alphabet up 63% plus. Quite good returns overall, even if there were some major disappointments. Now here's a look at what these returns would have translated to in dollars based on Trump's May 2016 FEC filing. So I'll focus on the hypothetical amount at the higher range that he would have invested. So for Apple, he would have made about 1,600,000 plus. For Microsoft, he would have made another $1 million. For Pepsi, he would have made about $171,000. For JP Morgan, he would have made $240,000. For McKesson, he would have lost about 50,000. For Nike, he would have made about 160,000. For Johnson Johnson, he would have made 63,000. For General Electric, he would have lost 162,000. For Visa, he would have made 321,000. For Gilead Science, he would have lost 37,000. For Celgene, he would have lost about 18,000. For Philips 66, he would have he would have gained 84,000. And for Caterpillar, he would have made about 193,000 plus. And finally, for Alphabet, he would have made about 127,000 plus. Added up, Trump's decision to sell his stocks has cost him between 1.78 million and 3.75 million. That's quite a lot of money to leave on the table. So what are some of the takeaways that we can learn from looking at Trump's stocks portfolio? Well, one of them is that great businesses tend to increase in value over the long run. And we saw that this was definitely the case with some of his top holdings like Apple, Microsoft, Pepsi, and some other businesses he owned like Visa and Alphabet. Another important lesson is hold on to your winners. The hypothetical returns we talked about would have only been achieved if he had just held on to those winners. So he didn't have to do any trading at all. And in fact, if he had done some trading, buying in and out into some of these stocks, his returns may have been worse. Finally, let's acknowledge that he had some big losers, especially General Electric. But overall, the portfolio still made a lot of money. And so you have to understand, in the nature of things, most people will make some big mistakes in the stocks they choose. But if they can pick a few big winners, they will still win big eventually. So that is a good lesson to learn from. Let's look at a few more details of President Trump's portfolio. Well, you can see that it was pretty diversified, and this was how the companies were categorized into different industries. The other interesting thing I found was that he invested in 4 different brokerages. And as you know, if a brokerage firm encounters financial trouble, the SIPC may step in to protect investors with a limit of about 500,000, including 200,000 for cash. So that is something you may want to consider as well if you're investing in large amounts. The next thing I want to look at is how Donald Trump's stock portfolio performed. What was the percentage return and what was the annualized percentage return, and finally, did he beat the market? So let's calculate the total value of the 14 largest stock holdings for Trump. So to do that, I just added up all the values on the right hand side. And if you do that, you get a value of about $4,550,000. So that is the total stock portfolio value. So as mentioned, these were the percentage returns of those top 14 stock holdings, and we also saw how much that would have translated in dollar terms, and in total he would have made about 3.75 million. Let's calculate that. So as percentage of the total stock portfolio, the return would be about 82%, and that is a pretty good return. So we saw that Trump would have done about 82%. Let's compare that against the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq ETF. So for the same time period of May 2016 to 9 September 2019, the S&P 500 would have done about 46.36%. And let's zoom in on that a bit. The Nasdaq would have done about 72.84%. So Trump beat both the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq 100 ETF. That is pretty good. Finally, let's take a look at his percentage returns per annum. So I'm assuming $1 became about $1.82 because he had done about 82% in terms of percentage return, and we're taking it over a period of about 3 years and 4 months, which is about 3.33. And so when you calculate that, it comes down to about 19.70% per annum for this time period. That is pretty good returns. So if President Trump could have done 19.70% per annum for 3.33 years doing nothing and just buying and holding, then I think you and I can do the same. These stocks were not very complicated stocks. They were quite big and famous companies like Apple, Microsoft, Pepsi, JP Morgan, Visa, Alphabet. These are companies both you and I use on a daily basis, and we understand well. We can invest in high quality companies, and I'm sure, like President Trump, we can also beat the market. So thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button. Please share this video with others, whether they like Trump or not, and please remember to subscribe and comment if you haven't already, and we will see you in the next video.